Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, October 19th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Nebraska game is in 7 days. The game against Michigan in 42 days. Welcoming back in Ross Fulton, one of our X's and O's gurus at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And when we have Ross on the show, we're sponsored by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. Last time we had Ross on the show and we talked about the Ohio State defense. I am guessing most of our audience did not have an extremely good time watching that show. Today we're talking about the performance of the Ohio State offense against Oregon. That went quite a bit better than the defense did. We're going to start, Ross, with the run game. Some of the things that worked well, some of the things that didn't work well, because there was sort of a mixed bag on offense. What was it that worked? I guess let's start with the first one. We're going to start with duo wineback. This is something we've talked about before. Talk about wineback at times in the past, but how did this work against the Oregon Ducks?
Yeah, I would say overall it was a pretty strong offensive performance. I mean, I think there were 3 punts, and if I'm remembering correctly, one was when Trey Henderson had the first down and seemingly gave it up to go sideways. One was when Will Howard fumbled the snap on 3rd and short, and then I think the third one was also because of self-inflicted wounds. So Ohio State moved the ball pretty well. One thing that I was apparent was that Chip Kelly was looking for different ways in the run game to run this duo concept. I grabbed this one because it was interesting. We could talk about short yardage as well, but duo is basically down blocking without a puller. So it's power without a puller, right? So you're trying to get down blocks. The running back is then going to read the Mike linebacker. So in this clip, number 30, and if he comes inside, the running back's going to bounce. You're trying to make the Mike wrong. I think that Chip Kelly and Ryan Day were running these variations of duo quite a bit because of the number of odd fronts that Oregon uses. So you're trying to get blocked down and get to the C gap. On this one, they ran a couple times wind back, which is it's duo essentially, but the running back's giving you kind of a counteraction. Like you can see here, Quinshon Judkins steps to the left. To the right, comes back to the left. They ran wineback as well. Unfortunately, on the Judkins fumble, that was a situation where both guards got beat and the defensive tackles were right in Judkins' lap before he could do anything. So that's obviously how not to run the football well. But this one, they added another element to it, which is this double bonus. So you're basically getting 2 pullers with the wide receivers, including bringing walk-on into the game to get sort of the extra size body in there. And so they're going to kind of come around. So everyone's blocking all the way down. Both receivers are coming around, getting enough of the Mike linebacker to free this up. This was I think like a 3rd and 3 play. Ohio State, again, was very good in short yardage and goal line situations. For all the concern about that in the past, we obviously see this play here. You saw like a couple of times the use of the full house backfield, the T formation with the lead block. So it was basically a down G play where Donovan Jackson would pull on a short kick and lead left to run the ball left behind the 2 lead blockers. So different variety again in these sort of short yardage situations. But yes, lots of duo. I mean, the downside to this kind of play, and this maybe gets into the yardage play or explosiveness or lack thereof in the run game, is duo is not, I do not personally think, at least the best design to get the ball in space, because you got a lot of bodies in there, right? You're trying to get all these down blocks. It tends to be more of a short yardage play, and B, you don't, the formationally, it kind of is a giveaway a lot of times. Like you can see this super tight set that Ohio State motioned into here. A lot of times you'll see duo run from a tight bunch to that side of the formation. That's kind of another giveaway. And you can play action off of it to that, but you got a lot of bodies inside. So it was an interesting choice, I guess, to focus that heavily on this kind of play. Obviously, as I said, I think it was a response to Oregon's use of odd fronts.
All right, the next one, something that has typically been a giveaway that Ohio State's going to run the ball. They're running out of the pistol. That's been obviously a little bit less of a tell this year than it has been in the past. In this case, they were running it, and this was a very successful run. This is the really long Travion Henderson run. If you're listening to this and wondering which play we're talking about, that's the one this is.
Yeah, Ohio State ran this twice back-to-back on this drive for two big Henderson runs. The key was that they caught Oregon here playing cover two. As a general matter, Oregon was, like many teams try to do, they were trying to be in one high looks when they thought Ohio State was going to run the football, and they were in two high split safety, either cover two, cover four, or combination of that, with, like we've talked about, quarter, half, like cover four to one side and cover two to the other, when they thought they were going to pass. Ohio State caught them here. So as you can see on this play, it's just a simple pistol inside zone, like we talked about against Iowa, where Will Howard's opening up to the backside. So you have the relief bubble threat. So you get, at cover two, the concept there, as you can see at the top, is to have a triangle, right? So you want three defenders over two receivers. So they have that there. The nickel kind of tries to apply late, but he has to respect the relief threat. And so then it's just Henderson against this safety coming downhill. You got a man lock with the corner on the backside. And so back-to-back times, Henderson made that safety miss. And I partially highlight this play because a lot of discussion of why didn't Ohio State have more rushing yards in the second half, and we're going to get to that. But in the first half, at least, they were able to catch Oregon sometimes in these two high looks and take advantage of it.
All right, the next one, this was another successful one. This is Emeka Egbuka in the run game. They seemed like they were doing some creative things with him. This was yo-yo motion, which is something we have seen at times in the past, but not a ton. And then this is an Emeka Egbuka handoff that worked out and turned into a pretty nice play.
Yeah, I mean, one quibble I would have, obviously, I don't have nearly as many schematic complaints about the offense against Oregon as I do with the defense. I think one thing that I kind of felt was wanting was getting the football to the outside. They didn't run the crack toss play that's been really successful, or the speed option. Again, that kind of goes to my point about duo. Like, there's a lot of interior run game. Maybe they, I am sure in their scouting, they felt like that was the best way to go. You saw outside zone a couple times, but that still isn't really designed to get the football out in space. And that partially, I think, explains some of the lack of explosiveness from the run game. But, they did use different concepts. So, like, they did run power read a couple times, which is, you're running power, but instead of blocking out, the quarterback's reading the defender, and he either hands off on a sweep or runs inside, which Will Howard follows the polar a couple times on that. And then you did this. And so, obviously a big focus was as well getting the ball to your two playmakers, Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. And so here, as you said, a creative way to do it, right? You're faking sort of running them out. You're shifting, first of all, to begin with, and you're getting the split back look. They gave the split back a few times to run power read as well. You bring him back in motion. And this is just lead outside zone. So you're just getting another blocker now, and Quinshon Judkins at the point of attack. Everyone's zone blocking. It's a nice job by G. Scott, just riding his man out. And so I don't want to give the impression that there wasn't any diversity in the run game. I just thought that at times, as I said, maybe there could have been opportunities to try to get the football outside in the run game in hindsight.
All right. You mentioned earlier that we were going to get to why the run game stopped working in the second half. I think this is where that's going to happen. So adjust your emotions accordingly. Let's talk about the inside zone read look here.
Yeah, I even struggle to say it didn't stop working. I don't think they relied upon it a lot. And I think there are reasons for that. They were passing the ball very successfully. They only had 4 possessions in the second half, one of which there were obviously the 2-minute drill. So there weren't just a lot of opportunities in general. This drive, though, stood out to me. So they were up 28-22 at this point. It was the second drive of the second half, if I recall correctly. They go back-to-back times running zone read. And this is a true read. You'll see here, there's no reliefs attached. The wide receivers are blocking. On this one, they use an unbalanced formation. So you have like a 4-by-0, right? So Jeremiah Smith is covered up, trying to, I'm sure, get Oregon to overcommit to that side of the field. And I on the one hand, I can see why Will Howard didn't pull it here. He back-to-back plays he gave on the handoff instead of keeping. You have 3 over 3. And so I'm assuming he's reading the outside linebacker or maybe the nickel who stays. But on the other hand, there's a lot of green grass here. And if he's reading the backside linebacker like he did against Iowa, this should have been a keep read. Oregon, obviously, in response to this 3-over-3, they bring a corner blitz. They bring the safety down aggressively. There's just not a lot of numbers. So next play, they run the same thing. It's a different look from Oregon, but similar issues. So I think that's where Ohio State was then like 3rd or 2 or 3rd and 3. That's where Will Howard dropped the snap. Again, I'd say these are minor quibbles. In hindsight, I would say maybe could have been trying to go for the throat there a little bit more, up 6. But I just thought that there's a lot of and maybe the thought was we're going to get Will Howard in space right here with 3 blockers. It just did not seem like either Oregon muddied the reads for him or it didn't come off exactly as they wanted. And so I just thought in the second half, the run game, it really just kind of took a back seat in general. Although it still served its purpose, as I'll show a couple times here on play action and reliefs. There was one where, a couple reliefs, they hit a second level RPO on another glance route again. And so, those are extensions of the run game.
Well, you mentioned the pass game worked pretty well. Will Howard completed 80% of his passes, more than 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that was a pretty good day through the air for him. Let's start with the first one you've got here is a fake that sets up a tight end delay seam. So this was a long reception by G. Scott. Again, if you're just listening and you're wondering which player they're talking about, this was the long pass by G. Scott that got him down into the red zone.
Yeah, and so again, the first thing I would note is that this is in some ways an extension of the run game, right? Because you're faking outside zone with a now screen to the side. And earlier in the game, Oregon's apex or overhang player, whatever you want to call him, the guy responsible over the number 2 receiver, jumped a couple of Ohio State's relief plays. That was one of the other drives where they punted, I should say, is they threw a tunnel screen that got stopped, and they threw a relief and that got stopped because they were jumping them aggressively. And then there was a couple of false starts in there as well. And so here he jumps the relief, right? And so that opens up this seam down the middle. I was talking about Oregon, a lot of split safety coverages. They were a lot of either cover 2 or cover 4 or mixes, right? And you're trying to but these cover 2 looks, unless you're running Tampa with a deep middle guy, you have this seam in the middle of the field. And so, as I said, G. Scott at least shows that he's trying to get his outside zone steps to begin with. You're seeing this quite a bit in the NFL as well. And then he releases up the seam. And so Will Howard is first looking at Jeremiah Smith to the boundary. But Oregon in cover 2, they carry that receiver or cover 4. But that opens up this big hole in the middle. And so, all game, it was looking for different ways to get to a few concepts. And this 3 verticals, once you look at the bottom there as well. So against a cover 2 or split safeties, you're basically trying to get 3 receivers against their 2 deep safeties. And this was one of the ways they did it off the run game.
Well, here's another look at 3 verticals. Everyone always thinks of 4 verts. That's the famous air raid concept. 3 verticals. This worked again in the next one. This was the Emeka Egbuka touchdown, the reception that he had. Yeah,
I say, yep. So you like to run 4 verticals against cover 3 because you get 4 on 3, and 3 verticals against cover 2 because you get 3 on 2. So this is a really nice design. Again, so the concept, right, of a cover 4 or cover 2 is you want to be +1 to the receiver side. Ohio State is in trips here, and a common cover 4 trips check, which this is a cover 4 look, is against trips, is you play like the Saban people call it stubby. It's called special sometimes. Basically, all it means is you're going to play man-to-man on the outside number 1 receiver. And then inside of that, you're going to play essentially cover 2 on the 2 and 3 receivers. So the guy's playing the flat. You have someone over the top. And Ohio State with this look just messes with those reads. Again, give the run fake, right? So again, that apex defender between G. Scott and Emeka Egbuka, he's drawn to the run fake. And we talked about the Dylan Gabriel run thread. He also has responsibility here if this is a zone read play, right? So when we talk about the run game, it has multiple impacts. But so as I said, like assuming this is Stubby, like that corner to the outside has Jeremiah Smith one-on-one, or excuse me, Colonel Tate. And so he carries. The problem with that, though, is they switch, right? So now Ibuka becomes the outside receiver. And so either the cornerback and safety need to switch, or that safety has a really tough job getting over the top. And you can also see Oregon bust the coverage because G. Scott's also wide open down the seam again on the clip. But this is a great throw and ball from Will Howard. They ran these kind of wheel routes to Emeka Ibuka a few different situations, and he dropped in the bucket each time. In fact, they tried to set up again the second to last play of the game. And when they actually had Ibuka and Will Howard's arm was hit on that play, if people recall. Otherwise, that could have been a completion of sort of one of those many what ifs on that last drive. But all game, they had a few key concepts that they were using against these split safety looks. Whether it was this wheel route to three verticals, or the next concept I'll show you with sort of the smash and double digs.
All right, well, let's get right to the smash and double digs. This is a spoke concept. I know that because it says so in the notes. Ross, walk us through the spoke concept. You talked about except against the Tampa defense earlier, and this is going up against the Tampa defense, but this also ends up working.
Yeah, I don't know why Ryan Day has called it spoke. Excuse me. Long story short, it's basically putting like a smash or China concept to one side, which is just like a corner route with a flat route. So you get like the vertical stretch to one side, and then with these like two digs to the other side, which creates a horizontal stretch. So right, like Ryan Day likes to use the term. What does he say? You run away from man coverage and you find the holes in stretch zone coverage, and so they have ways to do that, right? And so they ran this a lot. Again, this is a Tampa 2 look from Oregon. And so again, the Tampa 2, right, where you drop the hole defender is designed to take away those G. Scott, those middle of the field throws like I showed earlier. Oregon has a nice disguise here. Like this is similar to what Michigan has done a lot against Ohio State the last few years, where they show single high and then they're going to drop to a non-traditional tempo. It just means you're like bringing different guys. Instead of having your two safeties as your two deep defenders, here they're dropping one nickel as the deep defender, the other safety's the pole runner in the middle. But this is a good concept designed for cover 2. Like a smash is a quintessential cover 2 beater because you're getting, you have a squat corner to the number 7 to the boundary, and you're stretching him vertically, right? So he has to worry both about that flat route coming from the running back and then Jeremiah Smith on the corner. And then you're trying to hold the backside safeties with those two dig routes. This was a big 3rd and 7 throw here. Will Howard had a number of big 3rd and long conversions where Ohio State was in known pass situations that I thought he handled really well. The other thing to note about this play we can talk about is down at the bottom, Oregon runs a eat stunt, which is end first, then the tackle loops around, as opposed to a tech stunt, which is where the tackle goes first, then the end, you put the first letter of whoever's going first. But anyways, obviously Ohio State's lost Josh Simmons. They did a lot to protect Zen in the pass game at left tackle. Like you saw quite a few 6 and 7 man protections where they could full slide the line or slide down and get a tight end, blocking down. But Oregon threw a lot at them. Like as opposed to the problems we talked about with Ohio State not moving up front, Oregon was constantly slanting and stunting. That played into obviously Derek Harmon's strengths. Like he was a load all game for the Ohio State right guards to deal with. That was even maybe more of a issue than the play at left tackle, just because of how disruptive he was, and he blew up a few plays himself. As I said, the fumble. There was another pass play on 3rd down before the field goal in the red zone. But here, they're in a 5-man protection, and so Zen does not have a lot of help. He gets beat eventually by Harm. You'll note that they're sending Harmon right at him, right on this stunt. Like that's and he gets beat eventually, but he holds on long enough for Will Howard to complete the pass. And so I would say, in terms of reviewing, the 3 quarters or so he played, As I said, they did a lot to protect him. I think he held up adequately. As I said, I think if anything, right guard was maybe more of an issue in this game than left tackle. That being said, obviously Ohio State moved the football throughout, so none of it was detrimental to the point of short circuiting what they wanted to do offensively.
All right, and so they were right in that game right until the very last play, and that is what we're going to be looking at here. Ryan Day talked about it, kind of a flood concept. Where they tried to get a bunch of guys to the same side of the field. They actually had Jeremiah Smith kind of running across the middle of the field, and you wonder if Will Howard had thrown that, he might have been able to get down. But that is not how that played out. But what were they trying to do here on that last play of the game?
Yeah, so on the last drive, again, saw a lot of the same concepts that we saw throughout the game, as I mentioned. Right, so like the wheel to Ibuka, you saw them run smash a couple times. This is basically like a souped up version of smash, or you might call it a flood concept or a sail concept where you got three guys. But essentially, Ibuka is on the corner route from this tight bunch set. And I mean, I think he's open personally. I mean, I think that throw is there. I get why Ryan Day and Will Howard did not want to settle for, I know people point out, well, Brandon Inniss is open. I mean, I personally don't trust Ohio State in that situation to make a 50-plus yard field goal. I don't trust any college kicker really to do that. I think that's one of the main differences between the college and NFL. Ibuka would put them inside the 15, which I think is where they would want to be. You get the first down and then you have time with the clock. Unfortunately, again, like as I said, right guard, right at the moment that Will Howard's ready to throw, the defensive tackle flashes just enough to take him off his spot, and he's ready to pull the trigger, and that's why he scrambles. There are just a lot of missed opportunities on that last drive. A couple times, Oregon was playing sort of, they switched it back and forth between, like, they're playing cover two there, but some man concepts. A couple times he had Travion Henderson sitting wide open in the flat. Didn't get to him, maybe most notably the first play of that series where he slipped. I'm not sure there was anyone within 40 yards of Travion Henderson on one side of the field. Obviously the offensive pass interference, the 12 men. I mean, there was a series of, what ifs there. I think it was, again, I think it showed the effectiveness of the Ohio State passing game throughout the day, that knowing they had to pass and in a first or second and 20 hole, they were able to dig themselves out of it and get to where they were, just hitting those, some of these core concepts, as I said, that we talked about against split safety coverage. But I think, again, it's sort of a what if game, and, mistakes, and obviously both teams have mistakes, but a couple of, ill-timed drop snap, ill-timed slip, ill-timed not just getting pass protection, holding up for a half a second longer, as you said, makes you wonder what, if they could have gotten the kickoff. But I guess that's how it goes when it's that close of a game on the road.
Yeah, definitely a game that went down to the very, very fine details and the bounces here and the bounces there. Probably not the last time we will get a chance to see Ohio State and Oregon play this season. Certainly seems like there's at least a decent possibility we will get part 2 and potentially even part 3. I will put my hand up, sign me up. I will take another one of those games right now. The first one was fantastic. Second one could be even better with even more on the line. So thank you to Ross for that breakdown. Thank you also to our friends at Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus, check out the menu, and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.